time for another edition of the House Whisperer Show on WWDB Talk 860 and WWDBAM.com. I'm Barry Reisman, inviting you to stay tuned for expert advice about maintaining your house from the roof to the basement, featuring professional home inspector Jack Milne, and he tells us every house has a story. I love your topic for today, Jack. I love every topic, but today I really love your topic. How you doing this morning?
I'm great, Barry. And, here it is, the first weekend in October.
Can't believe it.
Oh, my God. Where'd September go? And but I got to tell you, Barry, this is my favorite time of the year. You got more of a crisper night and a cooler day. The heat of the summer has now moved on. And, the leaves are starting to turn colors a little bit. But, before you know it, we'll be raking and raising the thermostat. So you got to do what you got to do. But last week, as everyone knows, I had Bill Kibble on the line from Tri-County Inspection Company, and again, his forte is older structures. So whenever I have someone to interview, I do forego the email box. But I have a special one here from Donna, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But today's topic is called Demolition versus Construction, and how to be ready when things come down. So when I come back, with the sponsors, I just want to let you know that this is a good show for anyone who's really ready to open up their house and do an extension of some type. So I hope I'm whetting your appetite. But before we kick in, let's thank Burrow Exterminating for allowing me to be on the air. And Burrow Exterminating is out of Glen Olden, Pennsylvania, and they do termite and radon testing. So why don't we go to websites today, which is real simple, which is burrowexterminating.com. Bucksmont Inspections, I've known these gentlemen now well over 20 years. They are truly the best in the business when it comes to on-site sewage evaluations, and their website is bucksmontinspections.com. Of course, Pest Blaster, pestblaster.com. But again, they do cover radon, mold, wood-destroying insects, as well as pest removal. BrainFleshGear.com. Their email is contact@BrainFleshGear.com. Again, anything that I call eclectic. They've got a great imagination. They can put anything that you want together and make it your own. And then, of course, Tri-County Inspection Company. We are actually in 15 counties from the northern part of the Lehigh Valley and then into Warren County, New Jersey, all the way down to Salem County. So we do cover a wide area. I've got 5 inspectors. They are truly the best in the business. And we offer a narrative report that goes out to you via email the next business day. So check us out at tcinspect.com. And whenever you're looking for an inspector, please check their backgrounds, their criteria, how long they've been in the business, and any national associations that they may be involved with. So, and do me a favor, if you're going to use the sponsors, just let them know that they heard, that you heard their ad on the House Whisperer show. So let's kick into the email box. So Donna from the Great Northeast sent me an email about today's topic probably about 3 weeks ago. So, Donna, I apologize for not getting you on a little bit sooner, but I wanted to make sure that I had enough time to prepare your show. So it goes like this. Jack, we're preparing an addition, but it will require removing key walls, both interior and exterior. How should we prepare? So, Donna, I'm going to ask that you listen to today's show, and I'm going to lay out the basics, really for anyone who's planning any major product or projects. And, folks, please email me with any questions or topics to thehousewhisperershow@gmail.com. Always listen 24/7 via podcast at www.dbam.com. And for all previous shows, visit thehousewhisperershow.com. So enough of the promos. Let's kick in. Demolition versus construction. How to get ready when things come down. So getting Donna started, I'm assuming that by this time, Donna's has already approved the architect's drawings. They should be completed. Permits have been issued. The contractor's hired, and the dumpster is being delivered. So a few things that are really important before the dumpster comes, and I call it the layout. First off, did you call 811? Like 911, 811 alerts all parties, the township, PICO, or other utility companies, phone companies, gas companies, water companies, that you are planning to dig. And you'll know when they arrived at your house because different colors of spray paint will designate the location of all the utilities so your contractor's backhoe does not hit or break a gas main, water main, electric service, etc. So 811, don't forget it. It's really easy. And the most important reason why is if you don't call 811, all liability will fall on the homeowner if any of these vital lines are struck. And you don't want to strike a gas line. You don't want to strike an electric line. And, of course, any water lines, you're going to have Mount Vesuvius going on. So very important. Now, how much room is on site for the dumpster, the backhoe, or other digging equipment? So a firm layout with a contractor will be required because once the dumpster is placed, it won't be moved again for possibly a few weeks to maybe a month. And if the dumpster has a swing door, make sure that there's enough room to open it. Nothing more frustrating than trying to bring something big in, and you have to try to dump it over a ledge that could be 4 to 6 feet tall. So driveways are common locations for the dumpster, but you may have to get permission from the local municipality to put it in the street. So your contractor should give you a good indication as to size that you need. They come in 10, 20, and 30-yard sizes. I made calls the other day, and a 20-yard dumpster runs $5.25. A 30-yard dumpster is about $600. So make sure you put that in your budget. So for a little bit of background, Don is building a Florida room in the back of the house and is adding a gas fireplace to allow for heat. The home central air conditioning system was planned for the extension. So knowing that, footings are going to have to be dug to support the concrete slab. And keep in mind that no exterior wall or bearing wall should be disturbed at this point, except to tie the new block wall into the existing foundation. So Donna's sodding is going to have to be removed at the base of the wall to determine the location of the sill plate, box beam, and subfloor so that they can set the elevations accordingly between the home and the addition. So the last thing you want to do is, if you're planning to walk straight out, is having the elevations wrong where you have a slight step down, because that's a tripping hazard. So the first thing out of the gate is just to make sure that the footings are proper, they will need to be inspected, and that the block walls are high enough to support your new floor, be it concrete, or if you plan to do a crawl space. But if you're planning on doing a crawl space, make sure there's ample room for airflow between your existing basement and that of the addition. Very, very, very important. So because Don is opening the rear wall of the house, the original exterior wall is going to be removed and a beam is going to be installed. Now, you can't really dive into that until all your rough framing for the addition is complete. And keep in mind that both sides of the wall will require support to demo the original house wall. So when we start that, basically the first thing to come out are anything that are found within the walls themselves, be it any windows or doors. Any electrical wires will need to be cut and removed and or relocated as need be. Any water supplies, I always think of hose bibs, will also have to be removed. So the addition should also now be enclosed with exterior sheathing at a minimum on the walls, and the roof shingle should be in place. The window and door openings on the addition should be weather tight, and either the window and doors are in place, or at least the plywood will be not cut out of the openings. It's kind of hard to say that, but it can always be cut out later to accept the windows and doors. But bottom line, when the walls come down, the building must be watertight. So, Barry, before we kick into the next phase, what do you think we take a commercial break real quick?
That sounds like a good idea to me. We will do that, and we'll be back with Jack right after this.
Boro Exterminating has been specializing in wood-destroying insect inspection and control for over 40 years, serving Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. All inspectors are state certified and ensure providing their clients with professional inspections and treatments. Boro not only performs conventional termite treatments, but also handles special services like historic buildings and homes with wells, creeks, or ponds. The client is assured that all treatments will be performed safely when you hire Boro to do the work. They also provide radon testing in their service area. Boro's full-time office staff is available to help you schedule an appointment. Just call 610-586-5640 or send an email request to boroinspects@verizon.net. That's 610-586-5640 or email at boroinspects@verizon.net.
Specially created t-shirts by BrainFlushGear.com offer the extreme sports enthusiast an opportunity to have a clothing line available that suits their sport. BrainFlushGear.com understands that when we get the moment where we can jump on our motorcycles, wave runners, surfboards, snowmobiles, or skateboards, it can be priceless. They offer custom artwork including silk screening, transfers, and embroidery. Speak to one of their consultants today and they'll help you create your own Brain Flush. Visit BrainFlushGear.com or email them at contact@BrainFlushGear.com.
For your septic inspection and testing needs, please consider Bucksmont Inspections. They've been serving the Bucks and Montgomery County areas for over 15 years. As members of the Pennsylvania Septic Management Association, the Pennsylvania Association of Sewage Enforcement Officers, and the Pennsylvania Association for Professional Soil Scientists, Bucksmont Inspections can inspect your existing septic system or test for your new septic system placement. Please call Rob Bowie at 215-669-4213 and say you heard their ad on the House Whisperers Show.
As the weather gets cooler and the temperatures drop, the bugs might slow down, but the rodents don't stop. Mice and rats begin to invade homes during the fall and winter months, looking for food, warmth, and a comfortable place to nest. Don't wait for pesky rodents to invade your home. Fight back. Have your home baited and ready for their attack with Pest Blaster. Whether preventative or a full-blown infestation, give Pest Blaster a call at 215-295-5555 and they can discuss the solution to your problem. They also offer humane animal removal services for a wide variety of wild animals, damage repairs, and cleanups. Call them today at 215-295-5555 or check them out at pestblaster.com, servicing both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Pest Blaster, 215-295-5555 or pestblaster.com for all your pest control needs.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 25 years. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They've performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They are licensed in both Philadelphia and New Jersey. For all of your real estate transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. In PA, call 215-295-2030. In New Jersey, 856-853-4224.
And here we are back once again with Jack Milne, the House Whisperer. A great topic of discussion today. And Jack, let's pick up where we left off.
Oh, thank you, Barry. We're talking about Donna's Future Edition. And as to a little bit of background, she forwarded me an email a few weeks ago saying, how do we best get prepared for when the walls come down? So this topic is demolition versus construction. So once both buildings are united and watertight, Now we have to start to work really on the inside. So before you take a main bearing wall down, you have to be able to support the joists on both sides, because if you don't, things will come crashing down. So usually they're going to use what I call a makeshift beam. It could be a 4x4 or a 4x6 that's going to be supported by lolly columns. And basically what they're going to do is not raise them, but again, just support them. And so they're going to use levels. They're going to make sure that everything is straight. They're going to raise this beam that they've created with the lollies to a point that is offering bearing. On both sides of the wall is to be removed, and then systematically and methodically they're going to start to take this exterior wall down. So they're going to start with the drywall, of course, which to me is like the skin off the bones. Any exterior siding and wall cladding, then of course any insulation. By this time, again, the wire should be removed, any piping should be removed, and then it gets down to the studs and plates. Now, the new beam has to be put in place and supported as well. And then the ceiling joists are either going to rest on top of the new beam or are going to be supported to the beam with joist hangers. So if the house is fortunate enough that we can gang, what we call gang plate or gang nail, multiple 4x4s in a row to support the new beam. Sometimes I've seen where support columns are embedded within fiberglass columns that look like the colonial or Greek era columns, and then they take off the supporting beams with the lolly columns, and now your building is at rest on top of this new beam. Now, the beams today, I think everybody thinks is steel, and steel is great, but it's very hard to encapsulate. So they've come up with really neat terms called paralamps, glue lamps, micro lamps, etc., that can actually arrive on site in pieces and then be glued and then gang nailed or gang bolted to act as one, and they're very strong. And then it allows you options to encapsulate it with drywall, or else if you want the rustic look, you can get some rough-hewn lumber and make it a true accent. So, but this is, I think, one of the most exciting parts of any addition, because now you get to see how this space is coming together. And this next part of my little dissertation is called positives and negatives. So, again, I think the biggest positive is that you get to walk into the addition without having to use a ladder or to walk over any type of construction material outside the building. You also, what I think is cool, is get to see how the sun rises and sets. And it's really going to give you a preview of what's coming next. And I think, bottom line is you're getting to see progress. So, I think one of the biggest negatives, though, is that the noise in your house just increased. So, you're going to hear the hammering, you're going to hear the saws running, you're going to hear the radio blasting. And due diligence on part of the contractor is to install a plastic barrier, like a tarp, between the new and the old. And it's not going to be perfect, guys, but at least it's going to help keep some dust levels within reason. And you're going to start to find dust is going to be everywhere in the house. But again, a contractor should do his due diligence to try to keep dust levels down to a minimum. And keep in mind that, you are now part of the construction. Before it was outside, now they're inside. And of course, hopefully well before this time, any furniture that is found near the construction zone should have been relocated to another area of the home or garage. I think you've heard the name pods, or some of these personal storage containers can also be required. And they may run about $300 a month. But the good news is they're waterproof, and they can be locked. So this is just food for thought if you're finding spaces at a premium. Now, keep in mind that if your house was built prior to 1978, your walls may contain lead paint. So if you have small children or you're pregnant, when the walls come down, I ask that you please visit a relative and maybe keep dad or the significant other around until the dust settles and it's cleaned up, because someone's got to be there to still run the job. And dust from lead actually is more hazardous than lead paint chips. Those you can see, the other you inhale. So keep in mind that the contractor should also be licensed in lead removal or encapsulation. Now, another one of the negatives is your house will tend to become either colder or warmer depending on the time of year. So until in the addition, when the windows and doors and the insulation are in place, the tarp becomes your only insulator. Now, every once in a while, you're also going to get a visit from the local code official, and unfortunately, they can cause delays. So changes may still need to be required to meet township requirements, even though the permits were issued and the laying out of all the specs was open for all eyes to see when the plans were provided to the township in the first place. But sometimes, as the code official comes out, all of a sudden, changes have to be made. And another thing that can also hold up construction are what we call change orders, and that's between you and your contractor. And they may need to be needed because while we're here, we need to do this or that. And I think we talked about this a few weeks ago in basements. Make sure that they're approved by both parties and initialed and firm as to price allotments or cost allotments. Don't get caught in a trap on that. And one thing I always ask is that you budget at least 10% over what the addition's going to cost for the just-in-case items. Now, as time goes on, the dumpster is filling, the big equipment is gone, and the yard looks like a battle zone. The paper and the cardboard for the windows, the doors, the roof material, siding material, etc., has been removed from the yard and is finally headed into the dumpster. So outside, you're starting to look decent. The gas and propane lines have been run to their locations. Again, the walls are insulated, but by now, of course, receptacles and switches are in place, as well as any plumbing lines. So once you're insulated, then comes the drywall. And I do urge that the tarp not be taken down until all the sanding is done, because sheetrock dust is extremely fine. And keep in mind that they will eventually have to meld the new space to the old space. So more dust is just inevitable. And all I can say about that, folks, is grin and bear it. So once the drywall is done, then we start to get involved with the finish, and the next folks in are the painters, and then the trim carpenter, and then after him, the final electric and plumbing are installed, and the room is almost complete. Now the flooring still has to be chosen, ordered, and installed last, but from talking to most flooring contractors, typically most of them need a 2 to a 3 week lead time to order the material and have it ready. So, you have to be like an orchestra leader, and you have to orchestrate each of these contractors. And your general contractor should give you a hand on that, because they should be able to give you timelines, but hopefully you made your choice before the addition starts. So, finishing on the exterior, the siding and roofing have been completed a few weeks ago. The capping and gutters are installed, and the only thing left is the lawn. So you have to count on doing some regrading, raking, and seeding. And keep in mind that the grade has to be kept positive against the addition, and you might have to regrade a few times, because as I always tell my clients, new dirt is like coffee. And until you add water to the soil, will it begin to coagulate. So if you think along that premise, even the new grade that you establish will settle as much as 6 to 8 inches. So sometimes it's better to be a little bit more positive than flat. And if it does go flat, please add more topsoil. Any new shrubs should always start 3 feet away, and your downspout should always be extended at least 3 feet away. So at the end of the day, I think destruction tends to go fairly quickly. I think construction takes a lot longer because you can only build in certain ways. So in other words, you have to start with the foundation. You have to then go to the framing. After the framing they're going to run the electric. After the electric is the plumbing. After the plumbing is the insulating. And then the drywall, the paint, the trim, the flooring, and then your exterior. So as long as you plan the demolition correctly, it should run smoothly. But as I mentioned earlier, you have to orchestrate each move, be prepared for any questions and changes that have to be discussed rather quickly, and and be helpful to your contractor. I think water and other small amenities are worthwhile. Most contractors do take about an hour for lunch. Sometimes they do continue to work during lunch. And always keep the lines of communication open. Don't be afraid to be critical of their work, but by all means, there should be no yelling or screaming. I think construction does tend to be frustrating at times. I think everybody's excited to get the job started and, of course, can't wait until it's done. But in between that time, you have to plan at least 4 to 6 weeks for any simple addition, and longer if it's more extensive.
Hey, Jack, on that happy note, we are just about out of time.
Well, Donna, in closing, I hope this episode helps you with your plans. And next week, I don't quite have a topic yet, but I'm sure we'll keep you glued to the radio.
You always have something good to talk about. I'm sure of that.
So, as it is Sunday, Barry, as I like to say, please spend time with friends and family, and we'll see you next week on the House Whisperer Show.
And do tune in again next week right here at the same time, at the same place on your dial or your computer or your smartphone for another edition of the House Whisperer Show with professional home inspector Jack Milne. And to listen to previous programs or if you have any questions, visit the housewhisperershow.com. I'm Barry Reisman. Thank you very much for listening to WWDB and Jack Milne.
There's a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so